You can choose love, or you can choose fear. Chapter 10. When does the bird appear? This is an essential chapter for you. This is a chapter that I would like you to read many, many times, as it will provide the basis for your ongoing learning. You may even find yourself returning to it daily, which is okay. That is a perfect idea, because the words and the information in this chapter will offer you all you need. From here on in, I would like you to understand that the bird is a constant option in your mind. You can't disconnect from it. Instead, the idea is for you to learn to recognize it. Once you grip this aspect of your soul and hear and understand it, you can begin to choose from its opposite. You can start to make your choices from the energy of love and the bringer's energy. For most individuals, the bird is the only voice they imagine exists within their minds. Perhaps until now, you imagined that the internal dialogue you have become so used to listening to and investing in is your voice. Maybe you imagined that this inner dialogue was simply you speaking to yourself, your thoughts becoming vocalized within yourself. I am here to tell you that these thoughts are your thoughts, but they belong to two opposing camps. Some of these thoughts are fear-based thoughts, and some are love-based thoughts. Some of these thoughts were created and held within the energy of love, and others were created and held within the energy of fear. It is your job to understand which thoughts belong to which camp. The bird appears in your mind when you need to make a choice, when you need to decide how to respond or react to a situation. This could be a conversation, a reaction, an act, or a behavior. At that moment, you have a choice. You can choose love, or you can choose fear. Often, within that moment, your internal programming comes into effect, and your response can be one you have learned over your lifetime. It can be an automated response, a quick response, or a pre-programmed way of being. You may not even need to question it, look at it, or delve deeper into its meaning, as you have become so used to it being available to you. You may consider it just the way that you are, but it is not. As a baby, you did not have this way of being available to you. When you came through the veil between death and life, it would have seemed you had forgotten all of your previous experiences and programming. Therefore, you had to input the program again from the beginning. You had to relearn, and you learnt from those around you, and your life experiences. You began to create ways of being, coping and navigating your life to survive. Now, this is something I would like you to take a moment to consider, as the word survive is of the utmost importance. This word conveys an energy of fear, implying that you had to behave this way as your life was somehow in danger if you did not. In reality, for most individuals, their life was not in danger, but the circumstances they found themselves in were challenging. It felt upsetting, and at the deepest level, for the first time, they began to feel the fear of not being loved. In those moments, the choice was made from a place of fear. The behavior that became part of the program of the mind was created by listening to the bird, as it was at the forefront of the internal dialogue. The bird made suggestions around the choice it wanted you to make. It influenced your behavior. So let me offer you an example. As a child, you found yourself in a position where you had to choose. Your parents, guardians, mentors or teachers were not beside you, guiding you with loving support. You felt alone. You were in a room and the other children were isolating you. They were all playing happily, but you were left out. The other children told you you were not allowed to join their games. So you moved away from that group and you sat on your own. Within that moment, the internal dialogue was simplistic, as you were a child and learning. Nevertheless, only two types of thought were available: fearful and loving. Without the guidance of a more advanced soul, you chose to listen to the fearful thought, a thought that perhaps told you that you were not good enough to play with the other children, that you were unacceptable in one way or another. And at the deepest level, the fear was of not being loved. This was the bird speaking. The bird chirped up at that exact moment, and your mind began programming all of the details of that situation. Your mind, acting as the program, began to log all of the details in its library of information in readiness for similar future circumstances. Your mind created links between the feelings that you had experienced and the options for your behavior. Your mind, which is the program, chose to listen to the bird and to its unkind thoughts of you not being good enough or acceptable to others, and it created a way for you to survive. At that moment, as a child, you had to find a way to survive the position that you found yourself in. Perhaps, while listening to the bird the voice of fear, you chose never to be upset by others again. You chose to behave in a way that protected you from others who may cause you emotional pain in the future. You withdrew and you listened to the fearful voice. And you told yourself that those kids were horrible, that you should always defend yourself, and that you should always be ready to fight. You should never trust other people, as they can cause you harm. From that moment, the program was set. With the help and assistance of the fearful bird, the mind has created a way for you to navigate your life in the future, to survive. And from that moment forward, with your internal program and the bird's support, you made your future life choices. Your choices became an unconscious representation of a situation in which you found yourself, created from the energy of fear and held within the energy of fear. All future unconscious choices would be made using this program, and the bird would be a constant reminder of why that choice was necessary. With its most persuasive voice, its internal dialogue would be, "It's not worth attempting to get involved with others, as you know what will happen. They will cause you pain." And there you have it. The mind has been programmed with the voice of fear, and the bird influencing your future choices. It will then continue to influence your future choices until you recognize its existence and decide to make a different choice. With this other choice begins the reprogramming. Of course, there is an alternative way in which this experience could have been navigated. The situation may have looked very different with the intervention of a more advanced soul, a caring adult, a supportive teacher, or a heart-led parent. The child may have had the opportunity to listen to the loving voice offered by the more advanced soul, and may have been able to make a different choice. It could connect to the energy of love and therefore be guided by the bringer. The bird may still have appeared, but the love offered by the alternative source may have been enough for it to take a back seat. There may have been an external conversation that included loving reasons why it was okay to go back to the group of children and begin to play. If the adult behaved from the energy of love and was guided by the bringer, the program may have been created in an alternative, loving and understanding way. The more advanced soul who intervened may have been able to explain why the children were behaving in such a way, and therefore assisted the child with heart-led learning. The bringer could have offered the external source of information not from a place of fear, but from a place of love. The child then had the opportunity to look at future situations from a place of love and understanding. The voice of the bird, the internal dialogue of fear, would have been reduced to a quiet place, and instead, the child could have begun to build its program from a loving place. Instead of the internal dialogue being created from the perspective of the bird's voice, you are not good enough to be included and you will never be loved, the internal dialogue could have been created from the loving voice of the bringer, and perhaps offered words such as, "It's okay. You know you are enough, and there is always a way to be included, and you are always loved." What I am describing to you here is soul evolution. It is soul learning. It is the reason why these two options are available to you. Your programming cannot be erased, but it can be understood, and it can be overwritten with a new program, and the new program is contained within this book. It will take time, and you will need to offer yourself patience, but most of all, you will begin to offer yourself love. Part of that reprogramming is for you to learn that the choices available are always created from one of these two spaces, from the space of love or the space of fear. The decisions you make will have an enormous impact on your life and your emotional, physical, and spiritual health.